Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Today, we will have a different session from what we have had in the past 2 days. We will make sure to have engagement, engaging conversations. We are here with the perfect audience, with your ideas and your comments, your inputs will shape the agenda for us on what is the role of data management in green inclusive finance. Our session today is called From Product to Impact. It is a workshop, and we will have here a combination of presentations and discussions. And I'll very happy to introduce you to our speakers today, and we will have also 3 more persons supporting us in the workshop. We have Marianela Feoli, Director of the NGO Fundecooperación para el Desarrollo Sostenible from Costa Rica. We have Verónica Herrera, Executive Director of MiCrédito. Have also Michelle Hanush from CIGAP, Senior Researcher. And me, I am Natalia Realpe Carrillo, Director of HEDERA Sustainable Solutions and also co-head of the Green Inclusive and Climate Smart Finance Action Group of e-MFP. As well, let me introduce to Peter Zetterli from CIGAP as well, and Dania Obert from HEDERA will be joining us as well in the workshop. And Fernando Naranjo from e-MFP will also be supporting us with the timekeeping. Thank you. You can already start with the timekeeping. We have now 20 minutes for the introduction. So what are we going to see today? First, I'll make this brief introduction to the workshop, already that. We will have presentations to bring you to the background and set up what are we talking about when developing a product and managing impact. Have a presentation from my side, HEDERA, then a presentation from Fundecooperación. Afterwards, we will see the case of MiCrédito, and finally, we will have some points to action from CIGAP. From all these presentations, have the lens of where is relevant data management, why is information important, and how does it shape green inclusive finance. HEDERA is IT solutions developer, as well supporting microfinance institutions in green inclusive finance or environmental policy and environmental assessment. We have 2 microfinance institutions delivering products with a clear or with different approaches, but integrated DNA on sustainability. And CIGAP has a very clear now strategy on addressing climate resilience, developing research or know-how products, and as well frameworks and taxonomies for supporting financial service providers and larger sector stakeholders in financial inclusion. We will have 30 minutes of stations discussion. You'll see here the flip charts where we are going to go around, and finally the heads of the station will provide you the wrap up of what has been discussed. So with this introduction, let me start already with the approach from HEDERA. So I'm here with my hat as HEDERA Sustainable Solutions. From our side, we have been supporting microfinance institutions fostering green inclusive finance in order for them to have data-driven decision-making processes. Well, we support institutions in identifying what are the vulnerabilities in order to develop their products or fostering that green opportunities. So if you remember those that have been aware of the Green Index, we're talking about the last standard on green opportunities. And the second one on identification of risks at the client level. We believe, and we have seen all these years, microfinance is a channel to enable access to clean and modern energy technologies, and not only to energy, but sustainable practices in agriculture, energy efficiency, or clean water, sanitation. We are saying microfinance is a vehicle for sustainable development. But how to do it? And the approach that we have been working on is providing tools to microfinance institutions so that they can do the data collection by themselves. And then we support with data analysis, with the dashboards, with the indicators, and show them very clear what is happening with their clients with these very in-depth assessments, the different levels in electricity access, in wash, in food security, in women empowerment in agriculture. So then they decide how to shape their green offer. This is a combination of doing data collection and also using frameworks. And when I'm referring to frameworks here is about methodologies that have been developed by different international organizations, saying these are the main indicators how we are going to track the advancements on the SDGs. World Bank, with the Energy Sector Management Assistance Program, has a multi-tier framework. World Health Organization with UNICEF has developed the Joint Monitoring Program for measuring advancements in WASH. FAO has developed a Food Insecurity Experience Scale, 8 questions survey to measure insecurity, food insecurity at household level. So very briefly, how these frameworks look like is, we have very complex, not complex, but here we are saying it's not only access to energy is not only have to have or not to have, but rather what is the quality of that energy. In electricity, that means how is the affordability, the capacity, the quality, if it's legal, if it's safe for the households, if the fluctuations of the electricity will damage the appliances, and that's what it matters. That's what matters. No, not if it's a solar home system, or if it's a mini grid, or if it's a the electrical utility or a solar lamp, but rather what is bringing to the household. The same for the cooking solutions. Institutions can offer an LPG or a biodigester or improved cook stove, but what matters is it safe for the households? Is it saving them time in the fuel collection, in the cooking? And that will be indicators to collect. For WASH, we have frameworks for drinking water, for hygiene, and as well for sanitation. And in these frameworks, we have the different levels. And at the end, you can collect this data in any country in the world. We want people to be able to drink water from the tap or from in their household, to have a toilet that it's clean, that it's safe, that to have sanitation services, or being able to wash their hands with soap at their place where they are or where they are eating. Here, the framework for food insecurity. And lastly, when they conduct these type of surveys, the institutions receive this type of information. How is the what is the situation in the different aspects of access to the basic services, and determine what are priorities for them to work on. Some institutions have their clients in very marginal communities, and for them to see where are the pains, then they will decide which type of products they should focus. For instance, here, case of Senegal, Pansoto, we have heard in the different conferences after this type of studies, they have launched a program for cook stoves. And last minute, not this type of information, or what is the role of data, is providing them very detailed information of what is the situation in the household, being able to negotiate with suppliers or with other entities. Are you reaching this area, so that I'm sure that if we are financing this type of technologies or practices, are you going to cover, or are you reaching this these institutions and being able at the end, these households, and be able to monitor that data on a long term and have an overview of how is it advancing each household in terms of the quality of the access to the service. Yeah. With this overview, next, let's continue with Fundecooperación. Yeah.
Hi, thank you, Natalia, and it's very nice to be here and sharing also with you and all of you on what we're doing. I'm Marianela Fioli from Fundecooperación para el Desarrollo Sostenible. It's a long name, well, an organization with a long name. We're an NGO. I think you're at the end. Thank you. Yes. No, can you go to the first? There. Yeah, that's thank you. So we're an NGO. We're about to turn 30 years old next year, and we were born as an NGO focused in sustainable development. That's why our long last name we have. And we, after being an NGO working in sustainable development projects, then we turned into a microfinance in the last 15 years. Can you? Does it move?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So we pretty much have like two motors, two engines that are working together in our organization. It's more directed to the executing of projects, and the projects will give us more the opportunity for the piloting and the knowledge generation, and also the kind of facilitating the conditions. But then we have the engine of the finance, the loans with, so we were able to scale and replicate many of the good and the great results that we have from the sustainability projects that we have. Next, please. And perhaps to explain about our sustainability approach based on the client, we, for all of our agricultural clients, we do a risk analysis, agro-climate risk analysis. And as part of the analysis, we identified some opportunities. I'm going to show about the analysis a little bit more. And then based on that and the challenges for the client, let's say it's a coffee producer located in an area where there is going to be perhaps less rain of normal in certain times, so you need to solve water in their plantation or something. So then we get them some technical support in alliance with many of the organizations that we're working with, and then within the loan the adaptation measures are included as part of the loan. So it's not just a loan that we finance the working capital or whatever they needed, the infrastructure investment, but also the measures for adaptation. And within the loans, we do flexible payment schemes and other conditions that would make it feasible. Then go through the technical assistance and information and share. We do a lot of sharing of experiences between farmer to farmer, and see how the measures did, and then also on the follow-up. And part of our focus in Fundecooperación would be also the climate focus would be in of course as part of the business model transformation, but also on risk management, but also in opportunities, because then we see the opportunity to finance a whole sector into more technologies, and that is already, a market opportunity for financing us. The climate, agroclimate risk we do has the three main focus. One is on soil risk, the other one is technical risk, and the other is climate risk. This is the example of our portfolio in Costa Rica, and you see the red and the yellow and the green based on whether it's high risk, medium risk, or low risk. And so we make sure that part of that it's all of the high risk do implement measures. Excuse me. This is the example of the risk, and a part of the risk analysis that gives us a summary in terms of in terms of the climate risk, the soil risk, and the technical or crop risk. Well, if it is livestock, then livestock risk. And then it gives us like kind of like a semáforo, traffic light. Thank you. And so and for the small, I mean low, medium, and high, but it's more the relevance. It's not just the traffic light itself, but it's more what should be improved. And for instance, part of the information we get based on the geographical point where the farm is. So we get the comparison to, for instance, and this is just one of the examples on rain. So what is expected to have, there's going to be rain, and then you see the lines, the yellow, the red and green lines are comfort zone for the crop. In this case, this example of the graphic is for a livestock farm. So then, so the red zone is the comfort zone, for instance, in terms of rain for the cattle, and then the green one is for the grass. So you need to you see here, okay, that there are certain points of the year that it's going to be too much rain. You need to work on the drainage, or there's other parts of the year, like here, that where there's going to be not enough rain. So you need to work on having options for water within your production. So part of that is part of the structure of the credit. So if we identify that at this risk, then we make sure that the credit does include some of the measures. So it's, of course, it's lowering the risk for the client, and it's of course lowering the risk for us. Next, thank you. And this is just a couple of figures before if we take all of our high risk clients, but when we did the analysis before giving the loan, only 6% of them had done any adaptation measures. After the loan, of course, then 85% did the adaptation measures in a very comprehensive way. But without the Proclima, it's called Proclima, I didn't mention the product is called Proclima loan. Without the Proclima loan, they wouldn't have had any adaptation measures. So in total, 85% of our portfolio, agriculture portfolio has adaptation measures. And in terms of livestock, it's even a little bit higher. We're also working very strongly with the Ministry of Agriculture. Next. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Marianela. Now we're going to listen to Veronica Herrera.
Good afternoon, everyone. I know that this moment is better sleep or something like that. We hope you're not going to sleep with my presentation, but thank you, Natalia, for having us and share who is MiCrédito, what we are doing in Nicaragua and also in Costa Rica, but not in agriculture, Costa Rica. So I'm going to concentrate in Nicaragua. First of all, a little bit about MiCrédito, who we are, what we are doing. We are MFI. Basically, we started in 2004 in Nicaragua, focus more in the rural area, and then we move a little bit in agriculture. But also, after 10 years, we realized that work in the rural area, it represents also responsibility to the environment, it's not just change the life of the people, is to be responsible to work in the environment and the life of the people. So how big is MiCrédito? MiCrédito at this point has $31 million in total access and almost $23 million in portfolio. And 20% is agriculture and around 26% is rural. With those information, I'm going to the next slide. Let's see. What products we are working to be responsible with the environment. Number one, we make solution in the clean energy. In the clean energy, we have 2 or 3 offers through different alliance with the different actors in Nicaragua. For example, we provide electricity, clean electricity to the population living in the field and totally in the rural. That's one. Secondly, also we provide water and sanitation to solving the people that they have latrine, they have that kind of service. That's the second. But also at the same time, most recently, we realized that the number 3 product that we offer is to improve the capacity to be resilient, because the different changes in the weather, different situation that the rural people, the small producers are living. Those 3, we have been working in MiCrédito. In the next slide, we have some protocols that we have. I want to, how is we create this strategy? Well, we have some inspiration. When we are in this world, we have connection, and our strategy is based in the voice of the client, but also in the SDGs, because it's a match, no? That's one. Also, we implement the environment goals in the institution. That is clear in our institution. It's not easy. It's not easy because normally the loan officer prefer to make transaction in cash than this, I would say, this kind of combo that is mean not just cash. And then we design our loan with a high impact in the environment and the life of the people. Most of our loan are in the hands of women. For example, 53 total of portfolio is in women. But also we have, as I mentioned before, in clean energy and sanitation too. We listen our clients. And then we create a policy that is totally new with the environment. We are implementing training that is, as I mentioned before, is not easy because many years the microfinance are focused to give cash and then receive the cash. And now is changes. And then we have a very important aspect that we try to monitor in this. With HEDERA last year, no, this year was? Yeah, we made some metrics, we made some research. I'm going to explain a little bit more. And we detecting that every effort that we have been doing for many years, we detecting that some of our existing clients, they don't have access still in the water and sanitation and the clean energy. We say, what happened here? And we realized, thanks Natalia for this, we discovered this, we find this. We, as I mentioned before, we make training the staff to reinvent their own, how can I say this, their own discipline. It's changed their way that they are doing. And also we have another environment activity, like, for example, one group of the head office can visit different beaches and make some collection crash and those kind. And we plant every year some trees. That is minors, but it's still. Also, we have alliance with different actors like Water for People, IDB Bank. That's is the way that we implement that new service. And we have a very strong campaign because for this new strategy, it's really important to make education. And so we made by WhatsApp, by Facebook, by that the people know that they have right for this kind of service. And I think I don't. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Veronica. Michelle, give me here.
Thank you. My name is Michel Hanouche. I'm with CGAP. I think a number of the faces I see in the room were in a session that Peter presented in yesterday. So I won't go through the findings from the 18th month research that we did into the intersection between climate change or climate resilience and climate adaptation and financial inclusion. I think I'll just mention one point from that, which is our main takeaway is there is a role for financial inclusion in driving or facilitating climate adaptation and climate resilience. That's our first piece. And the second part of that is that we're not really seeing financial service providers fulfilling that role fully at this moment. As you can see, MFIs, like the ones sitting next to us, are the ones that are kind of further ahead. So we spoke to a number of other players like retail banks and insurers and fintechs. And we really find MFIs kind of been thinking about this longer and further ahead in that process, but there's still kind of big questions for us around the role that financial services can play particularly in adaptation and resilience. From, I guess, being selfish, the work that I'll do over the next 3 years is to really try and work with financial service providers at 3 levels. The first one is around strategy and governance, so kind of thinking through if we look at ESG, the intersection between social and the environment and what those kind of trade-offs are and how you make decisions to prioritize across those, and particularly then within mitigation and adaptation and resilience. The second layer is around product, which today's discussion is about. And then the third layer is around risk management, which kind of feeds into the product as well. I didn't want to, as I said, repeat what Peter had said. So what I've done is just tried to summarize some quick insights from the discussions we've had this week with MFIs and funders. So the first point I wanted to make around the business case and why it's so challenging is we just see a number of the variety of risks that customers are facing and the variety of solutions that are available. So we've seen a number of solutions, but we just see this kind of challenge of subscale that across many of the financial service providers that we've spoken to. And that's across whether we're talking about lending or insurance. And so part of the question is in the spectrum between like a bespoke product that solves a specific solution versus a kind of more flexible, non-specified solution, where do we find that balance between the value to the customer, but also scale to make it sustainable? So that's the first point I wanted to mention. The second one is kind of related to that, which is around this balance between affordability and impact. And we see this come up a lot in the insurance discussion. So we get a number of insurance products which focus on one specific risk. And there's a number of products around that. And then when we look at the customer side, we see the broad range of risks that they face. And as we get into multi-risk products, the affordability kind of goes out of the window again because it becomes so costly. So that's the second point I wanted to make. The third one is around the complexity of these solutions, whether it's because often they're new either for the customers or for the MFI. So the amount of technical assistance and training that is required, obviously then, further complicates the business case. The fourth one's around partnerships. I think we saw on your slide, Veronica, how many partnerships and how many, third parties are coming into that. So that's, technical assistance providers, solution providers, whether it's, irrigation or seeds, anywhere across that value chain, governments, different government ministries from subsidies to technical assistance and training and, and funders and others. And then the last point I wanted to make is just around the external subsidy becoming complicated by the lack of kind of ability to classify like what is an adaptation product or what is a resilience product at this point in time. It's much easier if we think about mitigation and measuring carbon emissions or estimating carbon emissions. So I wanted to just kind of highlight some quick thoughts. The other point that I wanted to add to this, so if you just click through, was what kind of data is useful here. So I think the main takeaway from the first two is just this increased need to understand our customers at this very specific and detailed level, and what kind of data do we have available for that. And we heard a lot about what kind of surveys are available, self-reported data as well as transaction data, competitor data. There's a number of pieces there that we can try and explore further. And then on this kind of TA and other partners and funders point. So there's some kind of softer data there to really understand at a detailed level which ministry is doing what, what funding is available, how hard is it to get, what reporting is required, how much is available. So there's kind of some softer data that also helps you to understand and drive your partnerships. So I'll stop there in the interest of time and yeah.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, if you can pull up that
Yes.
last slide. The one point I wanted to make of this is we did do a product landscape focused on adaptation and resilience. And the only point I want to make on this slide is if you look at the top, we're just trying to think through like risk prevention, risk mitigation, risk coping, or risk recovery. So it's really about where in the phases that you're trying to support your customers. Is it before the event? Is it during the event? Or is it after the event? So that's kind of the last point I wanted to make. Thank you.
I like, I'm also fan of this taxonomy, but if you listen and relate to the work that Fundecooperación and that MiCrédito is doing, you can find or you can see how is their approach towards risk assessment or already financing solutions for climate mitigation, where would it come, or if it's rather climate adaptation and being enable them to be prepared for the risk with the water tanks or having like dignity of life, then where and how to plan the strategy for the institution. So with this overview, let's get started to the discussion. I'll guide you very briefly how we will do it. So as we said, we're here to discuss how is data management. You see the levels of information that we need for fostering green inclusive finance. We will have 3 stations. You see the flip charts on the back, 2 in the front, and we will discuss about environmental strategy or what are the objectives from the microfinance institutions, how is the risk and impact management, and lastly, the green product. And for these, in each of the stations, we're going to discuss what type of data do we need, what are the metrics, what are the metrics to develop, what information do we need for those metrics, and what are best practices accompanying the microfinance institutions, but also if in your case or from your institution, no matter if you are a consultant, impact investor, or microfinance institution, what have been best practices or experiences that you have had. So think about objectives, regulations, metrics, monitoring, investment design, taxonomies, needs assessment, what is the role of this data management in this aspect. So I will be in the station of environmental strategy. Peter Satterley from CGAP will be in the risk and impact management, and Michelle will be here with the green product. So we will have 10 minutes in each station, and one group will be accompanied by Dania Obert from HEDERA. One group will be accompanying Veronica Herrera from MiCrédito, and one group will be accompanying Marianela Feoli. With the groups accompanying the microfinance institutions, you can discuss relating to your case as MFI, but of course we are open also to hear other experiences. And the group discussing with Dania, we are here is open, not only focusing from IT solutions, but rather talking about already the data, information, metrics, and so on. Okay, so we are around 30 people. I will say like around 10, but yeah, you're free to decide. We will going there, and Fernando will take time so that we are sure that we have like 10 minutes in the session, and then we will come back here for the wrap up in 30 minutes. Or 2 stations? Yes.
So the first question is, what environmental risk and how you measure that? Very polite. Then the other thing is the MFP. These graphs are based on the what are the changes that they can find on the technical address that also very important for the conversation and really explain and really being your way most development doesn't get from really nice or yeah, but also there's a lot where they recognize meaning that is if you're producing state of the and then here the market needs of the start or non but then it seems to and we have anything that for example, Yeah, like.
So we have 2 more minutes. Thirty seconds. Time is over. Change stations, please. Time is over. Time to switch stations. Time to change, please. Yeah, so we have 7 more minutes now. Please change your station. Time runs.
We kind of discussed that, but it's, the question is how to make sure that you demonstrate that your clients, these resilience and it's comparing the stage baseline, we do, but it's that is something that is we also are that change has impacted in their incomes, the income levels in the time, and you have all the information you run, but I will come back and say, I need more money than survey that let me know. But that is a gap between what the cost capacity on the printing capacity and because sometimes if you don't have time to credit to and then you go there very expensive, but instead many of the based on these risk analysis that we do.
2 more minutes. 30 seconds. Time is over. Thank you. Time to change the stations. Time is over. Please change the stations. Time is over. Please move to the last station. We need to move to the last station, please. Otherwise, we're not gonna finish. Time is over. We have run 2 more minutes, but okay. Last station. Thank you. We need to change now, please. Okay, thank you. 7 more minutes from now. Go ahead, please, the last station.
So you can try to have loans for environment. I don't think that this is because they need loans for so in insurance, this is that if
I would almost say that the impact somehow is functional. It is probably, I don't think it's that way. So in the case of hazard, it's climate what there. actual whether the organization that long, likelihood of drought. That's the data set.
15 seconds. Time is over. Thank you very much. Time is over. Please wrap up. Time is over.
So, and you also
Thank you very much. We really need to wrap up. There is another session in 15 minutes. So please go ahead and wrap up. Thank you very much.
No, I just. Because I will start with the wrap up and I need to go. You have the three, okay. Yeah. So, yeah. It was, so you have visited all these, all the stations going, the three of them. We're going to give you a wrap up of the main ideas that we have collected with the three groups. And then you're also invited to give us your feedback. We're going also to do a summary of these results. If you want, now, of course, the summary, you can give it, the feedback, you can give it anonymous, anonym if you want, and leave us your card for sending you the summary, or you can put your name in the feedback form, and then from that email, we will send you as well the summary. I'll start with the wrap up on the environmental strategy, and a little bit chaotic here, but we have discussed on the importance of frameworks to guide microfinance institutions as well. In the first group, we talked about the importance of understanding what are the governmental regulations, so at external level, and the risks that microfinance institutions are exposed to, or like these external drivers that are pushing them or incentivizing them to develop an environmental strategy, also seeing what are the environmental impacts of the sectors that they are financing. We have also discussed that SDGs or external frameworks are inspiring microfinance institutions in taking action. So that type of data, not data, but information, the frameworks that exist at international level are guiding actions. We also discussed about opportunities, like seeing what are the opportunities and the market needs, and at country level, seeing if at country level the government has already a green strategy or specific objectives that the financial sector should address. And finally, the portfolio risk mapping, like identifying what are the priorities that the institution should take. Once a microfinance institution has defined their environmental strategy, they should have two types of KPIs, one in terms at internal institutional level, what are the resources that they are investing on that strategy, the human resources, and also like the cost involved in their investments, marketing, administration, what are the responsibilities of the team, IT systems in place for the monitoring, and making sure that there is training for the staff and for the clients. And at client level, a portfolio, what are the yields, if it's agriculture product, ensuring that there is training, the portfolio quality to monitor, and what are the disbursements. And lastly, we had in our final group, we did an approach with hiring external support, having a desk research and a field research, and in desk research, having an overview of what is happening at national level, identification of good practices, cost analysis, portfolio analysis, and for the field research, doing surveys with the clients, customer journey, understanding what is the market of technologies, and then once the environmental strategy is there, following up the KPIs. Yeah, risk management.
All right, so talking about data for risk management, sorry, these fell off, so I'm gonna have to hold them. We split this into three parts, one being the metrics, what are you trying to measure? Two being the source data, how do you get the information that you need to measure what you want to measure? And three being the operational piece around what have we learned about how to do this in a good way. So when it comes to the metrics, it's clear, pretty consistently, people talked a lot about the client needs and vulnerability and different aspects of that. In unpacking that, we settled in on, of course, the climate hazards or environmental hazards, both the type of hazard and the probability of the hazard coming to play. The livelihoods of the clients, very important because different livelihoods are impacted differently, of course. We talked about the need to be aware of the inputs that are important for the business or the general well-being of the household. If water or power or labor, by all means, is disrupted, that has more implications for some businesses and livelihoods than others. The wealth and asset base of the clients is important to have one sort of sense of their resilience. The surrounding infrastructure, both the physical infrastructure and the service infrastructure, is also important for the resilience of the household and of the business. And there was a point made about understanding transition risk, but we agreed that that is more complicated to measure. There's no single sort of measure to that. So we kind of left that open, what that means in practice. Fall gracefully to the ground. In terms of the data that you need to collect this, clearly GPS data on clients is really important. Livelihoods data on clients is really important. We talked a little bit about what it means to collect data on adaptation outcomes and whether that is feasible and what that looks like. That's a complicated question. That we need to understand risk at a deep level by collecting both qualitative and quantitative data. The point about understanding, having good data on hazards is important. That's more feasible in some countries than others. In some countries, you have very good climatological data. Some countries, you have no national weather service that has any data at all. And so getting that climatological data and lining it up with the geographical data that you have is very important. Are we stressed for time? Okay. On the inputs, just understanding both the cost of inputs and the sort of vulnerability of inputs to different shocks, and then sort of feeding the hazard data into expected projected yield figures. In terms of best practice, pretty clear. We agreed that it's important to have baseline so you have something to measure future disruption and impact against, or lack thereof. You have to reduce cost in the data collection. Digital tools are a good way to do that. Important to collect both qual and quant data. Important to do trend analysis and look for patterns in your data, which goes to the point that Michelle made about products having big enough of a segment to make sense. Standardization of data is important so that we can compare apples to apples across. Useful to use the data that you already have and not always think that you need to collect new data for everything all the time. Impact evaluations are good to do every once in a while to see that what you're doing is actually making sense, and to build this into a sort of an ongoing iterative process of data collection, not do it as a one-off exercise. So that's what we learned. Michelle, products.
Simply can.
No? Or we can get that.
There's another station at 2:30.
What morning? I would have to sell something. Make it like 1 minute.
Okay, I'll be quick. So let me say this. I think a lot of it was, covered some of the same data. I think the first point I'll say was around this kind of early warning data, the climate data. The only other thing I'd say there was that helped us to prioritize which products. On the impact data, we discussed that as well. And I think, two things there, how we kind of monitor the cash flow and the social elements for customers and when they graduate, but just that there's a cost of collecting that data. So you have to kind of balance that against the benefit. There was some softer data like what are competitors doing, what TA is available, and then some data on business case so that we can go back to customers and kind of more easily explain why this is a good investment. And then there was some data on what funding is available from government and funders, and then the quality of service providers available. So like, do they do what they say they're going to do? Does the solution get installed correctly, and those kind of things? And then lastly, just on the impact point, just to be fair, that was an issue that came up both for the MFIs and for the funders. So the funders need to get the data from the MFIs. The MFIs need to get the data from the customers. So it's So I'll stop there.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. You can scan the code for give us feedback or more ideas or complain about how fast the time went by. Thank you.